Congratulations, you have already made fire. You found water. You purified it. And now you officially possess almost everything required to stay alive. Except one thing, a house. Tonight, the temperature will fall below freezing. The wind will pick up. Wet snow is coming. And your current home is a patch of dirt beside a campfire. So you do what any confident time traveler would do. You quickly build a shelter. A few wooden poles, several armfuls of leaves. The roof looks suspicious, but technically, it is still above your head. You crawl inside and think, not bad. Maybe I really can rebuild civilization. 10 minutes later, the wind removes half the roof. The rain comes through the other half. Your fire begins to die. And in the morning, you wake up in a puddle and learn something important. A shelter that saves you in summer can become a beautifully decorated place to freeze in winter. Today, we are going to follow the entire journey, from a few branches that might survive one night, to a real winter house with a dry floor, a strong roof, thick walls, and a stove. A house that can survive cold, rain, and snow, and ideally, keep you alive as well. Welcome back to Civilization from Scratch. It may seem that a house exists mainly to keep rain off your head, but rain is only one of the many ways nature can ruin your night. A winter shelter must solve 5 problems. It must stop the wind, keep out water, separate you from the cold ground, hold warmth inside, and allow you to use fire safely. Miss even one of those and the house begins working against you. You have a roof but no floor. The ground steals your heat from below. You have walls but leave gaps everywhere. You are now heating the entire ancient world. You have a fire but nowhere for the smoke to escape. Congratulations. You have built a warm smokehouse and voluntarily climbed inside. So we are not going to build the perfect house immediately. We are going to make mistakes, see what goes wrong, and then improve the design. That is how humans develop technology, only without the ability to watch a tutorial first. The sun is already setting. There is no time for a complicated construction project. So your first goal is not to build a house that lasts for centuries. Your goal is to avoid dying before morning. You find one long, strong pole. You rest one end in the fork of a tree, on a high stump, or on a simple support made from 2 tied branches. Then you lean shorter poles against the main ridge pole. Now you have a sloping frame. It does not look like a house yet. It looks more like the skeleton of a roof that has not eaten in several weeks. Over the frame you place thinner branches, then bark, grass, reeds, moss, leaves, anything dry you can collect. And then you make your first mistake. The covering is too thin. You think, there are leaves on top, therefore the water will remain outside. The water disagrees. If you can see light through the roof, rain can find its way through as well. The covering needs to be thick, very thick. And the material must be placed from the bottom upward. Each upper layer overlaps the one below it, like roof tiles. That way, the water runs down the outside, instead of finding the shortest possible route to your face. You finish the shelter. You crawl inside. The roof no longer leaks. You have won for approximately 3 minutes. Then you notice that the ground beneath you is freezing cold. You are lying directly on the soil, and it is quietly pulling heat out of your body. No wind, no noise, very professional. So you build a sleeping platform. First, several thick branches, then thinner branches on top, then dry grass, pine needles, leaves, or reeds. The thicker the layer, the better it separates you from the ground. Even better, raise the sleeping surface slightly. Now, there is a layer of air between your body and the cold soil, and trapped air is a good insulator when it cannot move freely. Congratulations, you have invented the bed. It is hard, uneven, and one branch spends the entire night trying to introduce itself to your ribs. But it is still better than sleeping in mud. You survive the first night, and the second. But then the real cold arrives. Wind passes through the gaps. The plant covering becomes wet. Snow collects on the roof. The poles begin to bend. There is no safe place to store food or tools. And a large fire beside a roof made from dry grass creates a new problem. Now you have a choice. Freeze without a fire, or accidentally burn down your house. A lean-to is an excellent emergency shelter. It can save you for one night, sometimes for several days. But civilization cannot rebuild a new pile of branches every autumn and hope the snow is feeling cooperative. You need permanent housing. Time for attempt number 2. Now you have time to prepare. But before cutting the first branch, you need to choose a location. And this is where you make another mistake. You find a beautiful flat area in a low spot. There is water nearby, trees, plenty of building material. It looks perfect. Then it rains. Every drop of water from the surrounding slopes flows directly toward the place where you plan to build. Congratulations, you have chosen an excellent location for a swimming pool, not for a house. A better location is a slightly raised, level piece of ground, not the bottom of a valley, not the top of a hill where the wind is stronger, not directly beside a river that may suddenly decide to expand after heavy rain, and not under an old dead tree. The roof is supposed to protect you from falling branches, not meet them personally. Inspect the ground. Are there signs of old water channels, animal burrows, ant nests, loose rocks on the slope above, dead branches overhead? Rebuilding civilization begins with learning not to build in an obviously terrible location. On the chosen site, you set strong vertical posts into the ground. You connect them with horizontal beams. Then you place roof rafters across the top. You now have a rectangular frame. You proudly push it with one hand, and the entire house slowly begins leaning sideways. Not ideal. The problem is the shape. A rectangle is easy to deform. So you add diagonal braces between the posts. These turn rectangles into triangles, and triangles resist changing shape. That is why triangles appear in roofs, bridges, and almost every structure beneath which humans intend to stand for more than a few seconds. Now the frame resists the wind, but there are still no walls. You have built a very complicated fence without the fence. Between the thick structural posts, you place thinner vertical poles. Then you weave flexible branches between them, in front of one pole, behind the next, then in front again. Gradually, you create a dense wooden lattice. This is called wattle. It slows the wind a little, but not enough to survive winter. At this point, your house offers roughly the same protection as a very large basket. So the holes must be filled. And this is when you discover the first building material that exists in nearly unlimited quantities: mud. You find clay-rich soil, add water, mix it, then spread a thick layer over the woven wall. It looks excellent. The wall is solid. There are no gaps. You are already deciding where the furniture will go. The next day, the wall is covered with large cracks. Why? Pure clay shrinks heavily as it dries, so the mixture needs to be improved. Clay binds the material together. Sand reduces shrinkage and cracking. Chopped straw or dry grass acts like fiber reinforcement and helps hold the mixture together. You combine earth, sand, straw, and water. With your hands, your feet, wooden tools, until it becomes a thick, sticky mass. At this point, it is difficult to tell whether you are building a house or losing a personal war against a swamp. But you apply the new mixture to both sides of the wattle, in thinner layers. You allow each layer to dry gradually. Then you repair the smaller cracks. And finally, you have a wall that actually stops the wind. The house keeps getting better until it rains for several days. The bottom of the wall becomes darker, then wet, then soft, and slowly begins turning back into the same soil from which you made it. Clay should not remain in constant contact with wet ground, so you need a foundation. You place large stones tightly together, raised above ground level. Then you build the wooden frame on top of the stone base. Now the earthen wall is lifted away from the mud. The ground around the building should slope gently away from the walls. You can also dig a shallow drainage channel to guide rainwater away, because the best way to dry a house is not to get it wet in the first place. The walls are standing, the foundation is ready, only the roof remains. You decide to make it almost flat. It is easier, it uses less material, and it looks surprisingly modern for someone who slept under leaves yesterday. Then it rains. Water remains on top. After the rain comes snow. The snow remains there too. The weight increases, the rafters bend, and the roof slowly moves closer to your head. So, in a rainy or snowy climate, the roof must be steep. Water needs to run off quickly. Snow needs to slide down. You place thinner poles across the rafters. Then cover them with thick layers of straw, reeds, bark, wooden shingles, or turf. Again, from the bottom upward. With generous overlap. The edges of the roof must extend well beyond the walls. These wide eaves direct rain away from the earthen surface. The house receives an enormous protective hat, and for the first time, it stops dissolving whenever the weather becomes unpleasant. Now you have a real house. A frame, walls, a roof, a foundation, a dry sleeping platform. The wind blows outside. Inside, it is quiet. Victory. But during the night, the temperature still drops quickly. Why? The house is too large. The ceiling is too high. The doorway is enormous. There are gaps in the walls. Warm air rises, and every time the door opens, it escapes outside, especially when Bob enters. Bob never closes the door. The house protects you from rain and wind, but that is not enough for winter. You need the next level, not merely a permanent house, a winter house. Now you are building for years, not for one season. Instead of a thin earthen coating, you can build thick rammed earth walls. For this, you need a suitable mixture of soil, sand, and clay. The material is placed in small layers between temporary wooden panels called formwork. Each layer is compacted firmly. Then the next layer is added. Gradually, a solid earthen wall appears, heavy, strong, resistant to wind. It heats slowly and cools slowly. But it is easy to misunderstand what that means. A thick wall does not create warmth. If the entire house freezes, you have simply built an enormous and extremely durable block of cold earth. So a winter home only works as a complete system. Walls, roof, floor, sealed gaps, compact interior space, and a source of heat. Remove one part, and everything else performs worse. The first rule is that the house should not be too large. A small room is easier to heat. A low ceiling keeps warm air closer to the people inside. A great hall may look impressive, but in winter, you will burn wood to heat a large volume of air that shows absolutely no gratitude. The floor must be separated from damp soil. Beams can be placed across a stone base. Between them, you can pack dry straw, reeds, moss, or other fibrous materials. Above that, you build a wooden floor or a dry, compacted earthen floor. The roof also needs a thick insulating layer. Warm air rises, and if the roof is thin, the heat escapes before it even has the courtesy to say goodbye. Gaps in the walls can be packed with moss, wool, grass, or an earthen mixture. Now you make a doorway, and out of habit, you leave a huge opening so you can walk in without bending down. Every time the door opens, a large amount of warm air leaves the house, so the entrance should be small. Yes, you will need to duck, but that is cheaper than burning an entire forest all winter for the convenience of standing upright. Even better, build a small entry chamber. First, you open the outer door. You step inside. You close it. Only then do you open the inner door. That way, cold wind does not enter the living space directly. An entry chamber is a simple way to tell winter, wait here. The house is almost finished. You build a fire in the center of the room, close the door, and finally feel warm. A few minutes later, the room fills with smoke. Your eyes begin watering, breathing becomes difficult, and the ceiling develops a beautiful black finish. An open fire inside an enclosed space is dangerous. Smoke and combustion gases need a way out. The simplest solution is a hole in the roof, but a large amount of heat escapes through it as well. A more advanced solution is a hearth or stove made from stone and clay with a separate smoke channel. The fire burns inside a non-flammable chamber. The smoke travels outside, and the heavy clay and stone structure stores heat. Even after the fire goes out, the warmed mass continues releasing heat into the house. Now you no longer need to choose between freezing and becoming smoked meat. Civilization has taken another small step forward. Winter arrives. Snow settles on the roof. At first, it looks beautiful. Then you remember that wet snow is extremely heavy. The rafters need to be thick. The spacing between them should not be too wide. Strong walls and central beams must carry the weight. A steep roof helps snow slide away. After a heavy snowfall, some of the snow should be removed carefully, preferably without standing directly beneath the part you are trying to unload. Because removing snow from the roof is a good idea. Allowing the roof to remove you is considerably worse. Outside, the temperature is below freezing. The wind is blowing. Snow is falling. Inside, the stove is burning. The floor is dry. The walls block the wind. The smoke leaves through the chimney. The roof remains where you put it. For the first time since arriving in the ancient world, you lie down to sleep without expecting to be soaked by rain, frozen by the ground, choked by smoke, crushed by the roof, or eaten by the actual owner of the cave. The house works. But something even more important has happened. You now have a permanent place. You can store food and water, dry clothing, make pottery, repair tools, wait out bad weather, and remain here for longer than one season. A temporary shelter saves one person. A permanent house creates a settlement, and a settlement is the beginning of civilization. Before we finish, here are 6 mistakes that can destroy everything you just built. Mistake number 1, building in a low area. After the rain, you will have water. Unfortunately, it will be inside your bedroom. Mistake number 2, forgetting the floor. The roof may be dry, the walls may be strong, but the cold ground will quietly pull heat from your body all night. Mistake number 3, placing an earthen wall directly on damp soil. The wall will absorb moisture from below and begin returning to its original condition, which is mud. Mistake number 4, building a weak, flat roof. Rain remains on top, snow accumulates, and one day, the roof decides to become part of the furniture. Mistake number 5, building a room that is too large. More walls, more roofing, more work, more firewood, and much more cold air that you have voluntarily decided to heat. Mistake number 6, lighting a fire without a way to remove the smoke. Your house is supposed to help you survive winter, not transform you into the smoked version of a time traveler. Look at you. You began with a few branches and an unreasonable amount of confidence. Then you built a lean-to. It survived one night and nearly failed during the first rain. Then you chose a safer location, built a frame, strengthened it with diagonal braces, wove the walls, added clay, sand, and straw, raised the structure on a stone foundation, built a steep roof, made a dry floor, sealed the gaps, reduced the doorway, and constructed a stove. Now you do not merely have shelter, you have a house. It is not perfect, it is not luxurious, and it still does not have a bathroom, but it is dry, warm, strong, and capable of surviving winter. Here you can store supplies, create tools, raise children, join with other people, and turn a lonely camp into a permanent settlement. But as soon as humans remain in one place, a new problem appears. Food runs out. Hunting is unpredictable. Wild plants grow where it is convenient for them, not where it is convenient for you. And Bob has been staring at your supplies for 3 days. So in the next episode, we will learn how humans identified edible plants, avoided dangerous lookalikes, and gradually transformed gathering into agriculture. Subscribe, because now you have fire, clean water, and a warm house. But if there's nothing to eat inside that house, you have simply built a very comfortable place to starve. Civilization from Scratch, Episode 3, Shelter.